I thought I could learn to draw heads in 7 days. You see them every day. So why can't I draw one? This has been bugging me for way too long. So I'm giving myself 7 days to see if I can finally learn to draw human heads. First, we've got to figure out what I'm working with here. So I'll be drawing 3 portraits to test my current skill level, and then on day 7, I'll redraw them to see if I actually improved or not. So I picked 3 references and tried my best to draw them. I really had no clue what I was doing. I just tried my best to copy what I saw. The sketch alone was already difficult, but when it came to shading, I was completely lost. I felt like I had no control of my pencil. I didn't know where the shadow was supposed to go. Like I'm just putting stuff down and hoping it sticks. Especially the hair. It's basically a bunch of random scribbles. It really doesn't look like hair. But here's what we ended up with. I do think they somewhat resemble the references, which was more than I expected. Overall, however, I don't think I did any of these people justice, but this is my starting point, and the aim is simple. Just improve from here and get better. Now we start learning. I'm starting with Stan Prokopenko's tutorial on the Loomis method. From what I understand, the Loomis method is basically a way to construct the human head using simple guidelines. You start with a circle, you carve the sides, and then you add the jaw and guidelines that help place the eyes, nose, ears, and mouth in the right spots. It's a generalized way to help simplify the head. After watching the video, I just kept drawing it over and over again from different angles, trying to get myself more comfortable with it. I then used some references to see if I could recreate the head angles myself, and it went pretty well. But I wasn't 100% sure if I was getting it right. So I printed out some of the references and drew over them to see if I could actually apply what I learned. And honestly, this felt way easier than I expected. I even started adding some facial features, mostly just copying from what I saw from the references, but I already felt a lot less lost about what a face is supposed to look like. Obviously, it's far from perfect, but honestly, this feels like a pretty good start right now. On day 2, I moved on to facial features. I'm following Jane Beata's tutorial on drawing faces, where she explains the general proportions of how features align, like how the corners of the eyes line up with the corner of the nose, or the corner of the mouth lines up with the middle of the eyes. That alone made my face look way more balanced than before. She also covers how to draw the individual features, which helped me a lot with actually understanding what I'm drawing instead of just copying shapes. I also watched some of Proko's videos where he goes over how to draw and shade the individual features. Since this is my first time actually learning shading, it felt a bit overwhelming at first. But he breaks everything down step by step, which makes it a lot easier to follow along. After learning each feature, I looked up some photo references to see if I could actually draw them myself. And honestly, it didn't go too bad. The hardest one was definitely the ears. I kind of understood the general shape, but I still struggled to fully understand all the different parts and how they fit together. Now I'm trying to put everything together, copying some references and applying what I've learned. I had a lot of confidence going into it, but I struggled quite a bit. I felt that the proportions of the head itself didn't feel right. If I cover everything else, the features look okay. I tried some more, but it just kept getting worse and worse. I kept getting the proportion wrong, making the eyes too big, the head too small. Especially with the shading, I just had no clue what was going on. This felt really frustrating, but it was getting late today, so I had to call it a day. For day 3, I'm experimenting with some learning methods. First is boxing in the portraits. This helps me place the face relative to the canvas, like how the bottom of the nose is in the center of the canvas, or the corner of the eye starts right on the center line, which gives me more points of reference and in theory makes it easier to be accurate. I use my pencil to measure the reference and transfer it to the paper. This also focuses a lot more on the negative space, the spacing around the subject. I'm starting with the contours rather than building up the face. I actually found this pretty effective. I felt more accurate doing it, but it definitely takes more time because there's a lot of measuring involved and I'm not a very patient person. Then I found this exercise that completely ruined my brain, drawing upside down. It comes from the book Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain, and it supposedly helps you stop thinking of things as objects and instead see them as shapes, angles, and lines. And I do believe I am not ready for this. I could barely draw them right side up. It was very overwhelming. After getting overwhelmed with the proportions, I needed to focus on something else. So I decided to tackle the part I had the most trouble with: hair. I followed a tutorial by Kirsty Partridge where she broke down how to draw hair by simplifying it into clumps and then shading it by following the direction and flow of the strands. I wasn't able to finish the video because I was already overwhelmed with information, but I took a few key points and then tried them out myself. Immediately I felt like I had a better understanding of how hair works. Again, I'm just trying to copy some references, and then I ended the day by putting everything together, and I'm pretty happy with my improvement today. Day 4 was pretty short, but I still learned a lot. Today I'm tackling shading, following Buskin's Art's video where I learned about the Asaro head. The Asaro head is basically a simplified head model that breaks the face into flat planes. This makes it easier to see which parts of the face are facing toward or away from the light. It looks absolutely terrifying at first. I thought it was going to be some really complicated concept, but it ended up being easier to understand than I expected. Even so, understanding it and actually using it are two very different things. I started by drawing it a few times, and then tried creating different lighting situations. It looked okay, but I wasn't really sure if I was doing it correctly. So I moved on to applying it into some references, which gave me something to compare against. Although I messed up here and there, I could really feel myself starting to understand shading a little bit more. For day 5, I'm putting everything together. I started by combining the Asaro head with the facial features, which got me more comfortable with shading, and I was able to start breaking down shadow and notice if I had made a mistake or something looked wrong. Then I slowly started to also do more references, combining what I learned about the hair. I still drew some faces that look pretty off, but if that happens, I just try again, notice what I did wrong, and fix it on the next attempt. Now that I've started to combine everything, the face feels less foreign, and I could see how all the features connect together and how I can apply a lot of what I've learned. It's not perfect, but I think I got a bit better. Day 6, the day before the test. Today, I'm just focusing on getting the reps in, doing as much as I can to get more comfortable and solidify what I've learned. So, what I'm starting with is a 30-second drawing exercise. Every 30 seconds, I have to move on to the next reference and keep going. This forces me to stop overthinking and trust what I know, and quickly break the head into simple shapes instead of obsessing over tiny details. None of the head actually looks good, but it was really fun and it made me feel a little looser. I mixed in some 1-minute drawing here and there, not being too strict with the time. Then I moved into drawing the full faces, just trying to do as much as I can. I ran into many difficult situations, but it gave me the reps and allowed me to be a little more comfortable with drawing the head. But I did get to a point where things just kept going wrong, where I hit a wall every time I tried and everything just looked wrong. So I decided to take a break and try to draw without a reference. Loosen up, just drawing more cartoony faces, playing with the proportions, and making silly stuff. Then I went back to drawing the head. This time I started with a reference, but I also tried to see if I could turn the head into different directions just using my imagination. This was difficult, and I wanted to try more, but it was getting late, so I had to call it a day and get ready for tomorrow. The day has arrived. Time to test whether I actually improved or not. And to be honest, it didn't go as well as I hoped. I started with the first reference, and during the process, everything actually felt okay. I felt like I was doing okay breaking down the face, and things seemed to make sense. But once I got close to finishing, something looked off. It didn't look like the reference. Looking back, I think the main issue was that I made the face too wide, which ended up becoming a recurring problem in all the drawings, which I didn't notice while drawing. I felt like I tunneled too hard and didn't take a step back to see the glaring issues. I focused too much on the details and the shadings that I didn't look at the full picture. I kept going through all the three references with this weird mix of feelings. Part of me felt like I was doing okay. I was getting better at understanding and breaking down the face, but at the same time, something felt wrong. Even though I thought I was doing okay, the final result just didn't quite land. Still, I pushed through and finished all three. Now, let's compare the results. This was day 1, where I didn't really know what to do. I was just blindly copying the references, and I felt really lost. Then we have day 7. I applied everything I had learned, and although the execution didn't meet my standards, I felt less lost. I was actually constructing the face instead of just guessing, and it felt like I had a process to follow. I kind of knew what I wanted to do. So, did I improve? I'd say yes. Did I master drawing faces? No, not even close. But it was a really fun journey. I learned a lot, and at the same time, I realized how far I still have to go. But honestly, isn't that kind of exciting? Alright, see you next time.